FM News Talk 97.1. On-demand audio.
So fast forward, Mr. Hicks, to the Sunday talk shows and Ambassador Susan Rice. She blamed this attack on a video. In fact, she did it 5 different times. What was your reaction to that?
I was stunned. My jaw dropped. And I was embarrassed.
Did she talk to you before she went on the 5 Sunday talk shows?
No, sir.
You were the highest ranking official in Libya at the time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she did not bother to have a conversation with you before she went on national television?
No, sir.
So Ambassador Rice directly contradicts the evidence on the ground in Libya. She directly contradicts the president of Libya. She directly contradicts the last.
Wow. And here's the thing about Susan Rice. Joe Biden, via Politico, just said this yesterday, that Susan Rice, and I'm quoting him, he said she's, quote, one of the brightest, most accomplished people I know. She also has the absolute, total, complete confidence of the President of the United States of America. So when she speaks in the discordant world we reside in right now, no one wonders whether or not she's speaking for the president. Direct quote from Joe Biden. So many questions to be answered, and the hearings continue. Joining us, doing double duty this week, Stephen Yates is a foreign policy expert. He also advised former VP Dick Cheney. You can find him now at dciadvisory.org. Stephen, the hearings so far, the only thing that we've heard from Democrats are excuses, attempts at deflection, attacks upon the whistleblowers themselves, excuses from people like Representatives Clay and Horsford about funding, which we know has already been blown out of the water by Charlene Lamb and Eric Boswell earlier. These details and these whistleblowers that we're seeing for the first time in 8 months, I think that this is absolutely devastating for the administration. Is this going to pull Hillary Clinton back in the spotlight?
I think it does have to pull Hillary back in the spotlight. There has been actually several very important pieces of information that came out today, and one has to wonder why in the world any of this couldn't have been brought to the fore, say, in October or November. It didn't need to wait till today. But there was a very clear answer to the rhetorical question Hillary Clinton threw at her hearing about what difference does it make. Well, apparently a lie to the world unhinged the Obama policy in Libya. It denied the FBI access to a crime scene for several weeks, to the point where CNN journalists were picking up evidence after al-Qaeda picked it clean. And the regional security officer made very, very clear that he had actually advised against entering facilities for which there wasn't adequate security, and was trying to figure out where in the system he was overruled, and has never been given an answer.
Never been given an answer. We were speaking with former Ambassador Representative Van Wagner just a moments ago, and she said that any sort of stand-on order or orders such as this comes from the President of the United States. I mean, does this go all the way up?
Well, that is actually, I think, the biggest takeaway from today. All of the indications are that responsibility is inching closer and closer to Hillary Clinton, but there wasn't really any gotcha thing that tied her personally to malfeasance. She seems to be a detached and maybe neglectful manager. Things should have been her responsibility, were not taken care of. But there's really been no zeroing in on the White House in the entire hearing today. It's hard to do because the White House officials have executive privilege and tend not to testify, but that's really where this needs to go.
Wow. And what we also heard from Greg Hicks, who was testifying earlier, he called Hillary Clinton about 2 o'clock in the morning, briefed her, explained everything that was happening, 60 terrorists on U.S. soil, on the consulate grounds, killing individuals. He witnessed that, he saw the body of one individual, gave her all of the full scoop, and then, a day and a half, 2 days later, somehow everything that he told her manifest as an explanation of a video excuse. How does something like that even happen? That had to be cooked up. I think that's kind of a big takeaway from this.
No way around that. It was entirely cooked up. Every single person with a modicum of responsibility and knowledge on the scene. And authoritatively today, and compellingly, Ambassador Hicks says the YouTube video was a non-event in Libya, period. Exclamation point. Stop it. That was known prior to Susan Rice going on television. And really, we knew it at the time, but even more now, you have to say, why in the world was Susan Rice a part of any of this? She was not operationally responsible for Libya. She wasn't a part of any of the communications. And in the clip you played before coming on, compellingly, she didn't even bother to talk to anybody in Libya before going on television. Have been lazier in her job, and there was a profound price for the deception she played.
I kind of got the impression that the administration basically was trying to hide behind her skirt, that they could use identity
Very
politics.
So.
It was kind of like two birds, one stone. They were testing her out for a possible, they were looking at her maybe for State Department, and then they were hiding behind her skirt for identity politics.
I think it's very hard to get around that she was a shield from getting at the truth. That there's no doubt that Hillary Clinton couldn't. Frankly, it's baffling why they didn't insist on Hillary giving the response at the time. Really, it was her job. She was briefed. She was supposed to be in charge. I still don't quite understand how she got away with that. But Susan Rice was irrelevant and incompetent. But the White House asked her, and at the very least, the president has to own that.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But that's one thing. Whether or not they will own it is something entirely different, because now you have Democrats who are attacking these whistleblowers. You've had Democrats who've really never been involved in any of these hearings, they didn't go to the Boswell, Charlene Lamb hearing earlier. They really have no idea what they're talking about, sitting here telling people who were there on the ground that they're basically liars. This is, which I think the testimony at this point has been too powerful to be derailed by personal attacks from Democrats. What do you think is going to be the outcome of this? Because honestly, this I think is more explosive than most Republicans thought it would be.
Well, I think that if you approach the hearings with the right set of expectations, that we're going to move compellingly in the direction of getting at the truth, then you're right. This was a very important day, and we're moving in that direction. But there are some giant donut holes. Basically, they completely nuked the legitimacy of this accountability review board, which was a sham to buy time and deflect actually getting at the truth. But they made clear that no one above the assistant secretary level was even interviewed as a part of that, when clearly, as these three compelling professional witnesses testified, key decisions were made above that level. So this was a sham accountability review board. So now the committee and others have to go after that. Also, there are key decisions made in advance, or at the latest very quickly, not to intervene with State Department or military resources. As Congressman Yates pointed out, we didn't even ask for overflight. Wow. So never was a rescue option even considered. That is a level of decision that could only have been made at the White House.
Absolutely. And Hicks also testified that after all of this, after the attack happened, he questioned the talking points. And when he started questioning and I guess bucking the system of what they were trying to get him to do, that's when he was demoted. His management skills were called into question because he didn't like the talking points that were being pushed out.
Right. That's another narrative that I think was built but not completely sold over the course of the hearing. But there's very clear evidence that there was professional interference in this process, to the point of, I think, maybe actionable interference in trying to intimidate people with real information and to keep the truth from the public. So very clear interference. We're not clear about exactly where. There is the assistant to the Secretary of State whose name was raised and needs to be questioned. There's the undersecretary, which is the number 3 position in the State Department, very clearly in the crosshairs. We're inching closer, but we haven't quite gotten there yet on the State Department. And as I say, the biggest donut hole is who in the White House really called the shots on it.
Absolutely. And Hicks said, quote, the YouTube video was a non-event in Libya. That had to be the lamest spin that I ever heard from anything ever. That was a very quick, desperate spin. And that guy's still sitting in prison, too. I mean, if it's determined now that it's a terror attack, guy should be released at this point, I think.
The only one associated with his entire episode that has served time. No alleged perpetrators have served any time. And I think the hearing did a compelling job of saying everyone knew who was responsible for this. I thought it was also news that our ambassador was taken to a hospital controlled by the organization responsible for the attack. Why is it the first time we've heard that?
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't this considered, last quick question for you, Stephen, isn't 60 terrorists on the soil, on U.S. soil, because these consulates, that's considered sovereign territory upon which they sit, that's a declaration of war. It seems that the importance of this is being really played down in all of this.
No doubt. It has been a minimized mode from the get-go. That figure, I think, was also news today. We've never really gotten granularity on how many people were involved. 60 is a significant number. And it was very, very clearly stated that this was an attack. There was no demonstration. They knew there were security risks, but when they started looking for support, there was a stand-down order to the point where a soldier looked our diplomat in the face and said, "Never in my career have I witnessed a case where a diplomat had more manhood than a soldier called to duty."
Wow. Stephen Yates with the DC International Advisory, dciadvisory.org. Stephen, thanks for your expertise on all of this, and I'm sure we're going to be talking to you again very soon as these hearings continue.
Thank you, Dana.
Thanks so much.